Good morning, people. I was raised amongst a society of human beings that were all taught to disbelieve in the possibilities of success. You see, we were taught that, being of African descent, we were to only be feared because of our aggressions stemming from a positive mindset, and even though we were talented, smart, strong-willed, and intelligent, we were to play it safe by creating our own reasons to keep us trapped below the rest of society. Watching our parents suffer just to keep food on the table and a roof over our head made it that much harder for us to believe in anything great happening to us. But then a strange thing happened. We all witnessed one person make it out. Seeing this was enough to spark the curiosity of others. Seeing this planted my first seeds. How many of you have more faith in seeing someone else succeed than in your own selves? Crazy question, right? We doubt our own abilities and spend so much energy praising the abilities of others when that same energy can be used to uplift your own beliefs within. Well, listen up, people. Stop doubting yourselves all of the time and just be what you were born to be. Great. You were born great because you came from greatness, and the only one that can detour you from your greatness is yourself. So please, people, please have the faith in yourselves and stop doubting. You got it.
First Cup KC, unique, hustle hard music, yeah. First Cup KC, start your day off with a cup of Joe and positive convo. First Cup KC, shine a light on the ones that work hard from Kansas to the Mo. First Cup KC, motivate, educate, inspire the youth to be great. First Cup KC, believe in yourself is the key to make a change. It's never too late. First Cup KC. This broadcast is a No Solutions podcast production. Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the First Cup KC. I'm your host, Coffee Cup Chuck, and today I have a very good friend of mine on the show with us, Mr. David Wanamaker of 5 Star Solutions Group.
So good to be here, Chuck. Thank you so much.
Man, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. You are the first guest on our season 3 episode, right?
It's an honor to kick off season 3.
Season 3, man.
First Cup.
Here we go. And we starting it off with David Wanamaker, man. Take a couple of minutes and give me an elevator pitch of who David Wanamaker is.
Oh, wow. You know, who David Wanamaker is. I would say that first and foremost, I'm a family man. So I've been married for coming up on 35 years in January. I have a 22-year-old daughter at home who's taking a gap year from her schooling at KU, and she'll go back. I'm not sure if she's going to go back in the spring or the fall. At this point, it sounds like probably the fall and not the spring. And then I have a 16-year-old son who is a sophomore at Olathe East High School. I was born and raised here in the Kansas City area, spent most of my childhood in Leawood, where I had mom and dad at home, and my brother, who's 4 years younger than me, lives in Southern California now, and we only get to see each other a couple of times a year. But growing up in that family was a very formative experience for me, and really shaped who I am today and what's most important to me, and that is my family. So I like to say that, you know, as we kind of all, you know, went through COVID together, and
Right.
you know, we were all staying home. I recall going through a number of online master classes about this and that. You know, they were all always business oriented, but one of the questions that always got asked was, you know, what is your why? You have to know your why. And I remember hearing people talking about their why being, you know, pretty big things, and I thought that was fantastic. And it took me a while to really realize that my why is a lot more simple. That it's really just about my family, my wife and my kids and my extended family. So that would be the best way for me to describe myself. Would just be to say that I'm really you know, very much about my family and serving my family as much as I can. And I feel
Family,
like
man.
if I serve my family well, then that's probably the best way that I can kind of contribute to society. So,
I like that, man. That's a nice little pitch.
Yeah.
Nice little pitch. Get to know David Wanamaker.
Yeah. So
Family man, huh?
Yeah. So that's about me personally. And obviously we'll get into the business aspect of, who I am and what I do in a little while. But, the most important thing to me is my family for sure.
And that should be. It should be. So first off, birthday.
August 28th.
Favorite holiday.
We just had it. My favorite holiday has always been Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it brings the family together.
It does, and I've always enjoyed cooking, and so Thanksgiving being as much about food as it is about your family. I get to do some cooking, and I'm always happy in the kitchen and outside on the grill.
First person you tell your good news when you receive it.
100% my wife, all the time.
Small or big family?
Good question. So I was raised in a small family, just my brother and I at home. I only have 2 kids at home myself, but I feel like I'm part of a much bigger family because I married a woman who is the 9th of 9 children. So, and I recall the very first time I spent Christmas with her family, there were probably 25 to 30 grandkids in the house, along with brothers and sisters, and when the gifts were being opened, the paper was just flying, and I remember turning to my wife Ann and saying, "Wow, this is like sharks in a feeding frenzy." So I feel like I'm part of both a small family and part of a big family.
Favorite family tradition?
Even though my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, my favorite traditions actually family traditions have to do with Christmas. Things like our family, we always will take a night during the week in December at some point where we will go drive around looking at Christmas lights. We'll just look at the best Christmas lights displays in Kansas City. Another big favorite family tradition has to do with the night that we all sort of compare our schedules and make sure that we're all on the same page where we can put up the Christmas tree at home. And then another, this is more my tradition with our family than it is our family tradition. We will pick a couple of nights during the month of December where all we do is we stay at home, we pop popcorn, and we watch Christmas movies. So it sounds like maybe Christmas would be my favorite holiday, but really it's Thanksgiving.
But the traditions still are pretty much kind of the same. You get together, you're preparing your meal, and you spend a lot of time preparing your meal and socializing with family coming in from here and there for Thanksgiving. With Christmas, it's pretty much the same thing. You're putting the trees together, you're getting set up for Christmas while you're cooking your meals. And
yeah.
So it's pretty much the same thing. Next question.
Okay.
Whose opinion do you value the most?
I would say that as I share my best news first with my wife, her opinion is the one that I value the most, but a close second place would be my dad.
Yes.
I've always wanted to live up to his example of generosity and just strength, and so I value his opinion, and sometimes that's not a great thing for me because I feel like I often fail to live up to to his standards, and but I do I value his opinion as well,
and that's understandable. That's understandable. So, what's your favorite book and why?
Well, that's a great question. The book that I probably spend the most time with would be my favorite book, or at least the book that I would hope I allow to influence me the most, and that would be the Bible. I I haven't ever read it cover to cover. There are people who have done that, who have read it cover to cover, and they memorize certain pieces of it, certain parts of scripture. I've never done that, but there are a lot of different passages that I'll go back to time and again. And so, I would have to say that would be my all-time favorite book. Sure.
Yep. Me too. I don't read it like a book. I kind of read it like a textbook. It's something to grow on you. It's something that you need to reference. And books like that, of that magnitude, are eternal books. Some books come in your life and go. The Bible has been one of those books that's always stayed with a lot of people for many, many reasons, even if a lot of people don't follow that culture. I have friends that don't go to church, but they will always refer to the Bible. I have family members that write names on pieces of paper and stick them in the Bible, for their traditional reasons. But dream job.
So if this was, say, 30 or 40 years ago, that would have been pretty easy. At the time, I was a swim team coach. I grew up as a competitive swimmer, and then once I stopped swimming, stopped competing, I began coaching swim teams, and I loved that. So if, at the time, that would have been, my dream job would have been to be the U.S. Olympic swim team coach. I would have loved to do that. But I had,
I didn't
had
take
other
you as a
interests.
swimmer.
Yeah, that was, growing up, I played golf and baseball and swam. I didn't play much basketball or football. I played a little bit of each, but when it came right down to it, swimming was my thing. Today, though, it's like if I had it to do all over again, today I play tennis. Tennis is my passion. I love to play tennis, and I wish that I had played tennis as a kid, as much as I love it now, because now my dream job would be to be on the ATP tour, playing at Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, the Australian Open, the French Open, and all the other tournaments. I would have loved to have done that. Yeah. Now I say that, but my family is so important to me. I don't know how I would be able to balance or have both. To
Put
do
a
that.
tennis court in your backyard.
That's
man.
right. Yeah.
I mean, you can sometimes when you can't go to it, you have to bring it to you.
Yeah.
So, I see people all the time putting basketball courts in the back of their house just because they like to play basketball.
Yeah.
I see people putting weight rooms in their houses because they like to spend a lot of time at the gym. So that's a good one. What are the qualities that are most important to you in other people?
I would say first and foremost authenticity, because you can say that there are a lot of things that make up an authentic person. They are truthful with you. They don't hide who they are. They're vulnerable. They let you into who they are as a person, and so. All of the qualities that would sum up authenticity would be what I would look for in a person. That's the kind of quality that I look for in a friendship more than anything else.
What is your favorite quote?
I would say that it might be something from Mother Teresa, probably, when she said, I can't remember it exactly, but it was something along the lines of, you may not be able to do great things, but do small things with great love.
Ooh.
We can all do small things with great love. And I think that gets me back to what I was talking about with respect to these master classes and, having having an understanding of your why. My why being my family, in comparison to what some of these other people I remember in these master classes were saying, felt very small, but if I can, if I can serve my family well, and if I can do the small things and serving them well with great love, then those become great things.
So now we're going to get a little more personal. We're
Okay.
I'm gonna start a line of personal questions. So, what's the most important thing to you, and why? I think I know this answer, but why?
Yeah, it would definitely be my family, and part of part of that is because of the struggle that my wife and I had starting a family. We struggled through a number of years of infertility, where we discovered that having our own children was not going to be, in our future, conceiving children. And through some friendships of ours, we were invited to adopt, and not only adopt, but adopt in a foreign country. And so both of our children are from Guatemala. They were both born to other mothers, and the experience of those adoptions was really huge for us because even though we saw this with our first adoption of our daughter, Sophie, when she was 20, well, she's 22 now, but when we adopted her, she was 15 months old. The difficulty that her foster mother in Guatemala had in relinquishing custody to us. And when I say difficulty, what I mean is how emotionally difficult it was for her. Because she had cared for Sophie for 15 months of her life, and loved her unconditionally. And so when she placed Sophie into our arms for the final time, knowing that she would not see Sophie again, or thought that there was a chance that she might never see Sophie again, it was emotionally devastating for her. The interesting thing is my wife and I didn't really make a particular note of it at that time because we were so focused on Sophie and so focused on caring for her that we just didn't observe her foster mother's devastation or emotional heartbreak.
Yeah.
And so when we went back 7 years later to Guatemala to adopt our son John, and we saw the same experience of that his foster mother was having at the time that she placed John in our arms, how difficult it was for her, how heartbreaking it was for her. That's when it really registered for us that, wow, here are these women who they give of themselves for a year to care for children that they know that they will not be able to care for as their own children for a lifetime, and that they know that when they accept custody as a foster parent at the beginning of that process, that their heart will be broken within a year, and then they do it again and again and again. It really drove home for Ann and me that's what sacrificial love really looks like, that you can give of yourself knowing full well that your heart is going to be broken, just absolutely shattered, and yet you do it again and again and again. And these foster moms in Guatemala, many of them do that repeatedly. In fact, Sophie's foster mom, her name is Elizabeth, we reconnected with her when we went back to adopt John. This was 7 years. We hadn't seen Elizabeth in 7 years. And it just happened to be at Thanksgiving, actually. And we had Thanksgiving dinner at our hotel with Elizabeth. And she came and joined us. And she told us that she had fostered 42 infants in her lifetime. And that her prayer for the past 2 years had been that just one of those 42 might one day return to Guatemala before she died. And our Sophie was the very first one to return to Guatemala, and seeing the joy in her face just to have the opportunity to reconnect with Sophie was an amazing experience. So
You gave me chills, man. That just gave me chills.
So that's the why behind, why family is so important to us, is that, aside from our own upbringings, my own upbringing, I've been able to witness what sacrificial love really looks like in a very personal way.
How do you like to spend your free time?
So I would say that if I'm not working, you'll either find me spending time with my family, or if not with my family, you'll find me on the tennis court or watching a KU basketball or football game, or watching a Chiefs game. I'm not a guy who goes out and spends a lot of time, happy hours for business or anything like that. I'm either with my family or doing something like playing tennis or watching sports or cooking. I spend a lot of time cooking on the grill too.
Cooking, huh?
Yeah.
What do you like to cook the most?
Lately it's been pizza, because my wife gave me for my last birthday, she gave me an outdoor pellet-fired pizza oven that bakes one pizza at a time, and she knew that I'd been looking for one of those, or I should say, thinking about getting one, and so she decided to go ahead and surprise me with that. So for the last 3 months or so, I've been playing with this pizza oven, trying to perfect pizza, and so that's been a lot of fun. But my hobby has kind of always been barbecue, brisket and ribs, and
you are a Kansas City man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say Kansas City's culinary history has certainly influenced my my cooking interest for sure.
So when do you actually have time just for David Wanamaker?
It feels like never. We have a mutual friend in Kyle Benoit at Bordner Home Improvement, and I always like what he says when he's like, "Yeah, I'll get to that in my non-existent free time." and I've remembered him saying that. I feel like I have non-existent free time as well, because my free time, I would say, is when I'm on the tennis court, for example, for an hour or an hour and a half here or there, when I get the opportunity to either just play in a class or play in a tournament with friends. Like a week from Friday, I'm going to play in a tournament, just a fun recreational tournament with a couple of friends through ACA Business Club, where I met relationships with guys that I met at ACA Business Club. We're going to partner together and form a team and play in this tennis tournament. So anyway, so my free time for myself, my non-existent free time, tends to be in the evenings. I suppose that's one of the advantages of having grown kids is that they have their own interests as well. Yeah. And so I don't feel like I have to spend, 3 hours of every night, entertaining or, spending time with my own kids. We do have to schedule time a little bit more, particularly now with my daughter, who works nights at Target, and she typically is working like 3 o'clock until close, which means she will work until midnight or so, and come home. My wife and I are already in bed. We don't get to see her. We're lucky if we get to see her in the morning at all, because we're usually gone and out of the house before she gets up, and by the time we get home, she's gone working. So we do have to schedule that time. But in terms of time for just me, it's difficult to find that time.
Yeah, I always refer to, I'll get to it the second Tuesday of next week.
Right, right.
Which is non-existent.
I remember you saying that before.
But you are a very family-oriented guy,
mm-hmm.
very family-oriented individual. How do you balance this business with the family?
Well, like I said, with Sophie working nights, it's difficult to figure that out. We really have to schedule time pretty far in advance. Like my son's birthday, his 16th birthday was just last Wednesday, and we had to start talking with Sophie about making sure that she was not working, that Wednesday, about a month out. So really just making sure that, that her time is scheduled at the same time that we've got time where we can, spend time together is really important. It's a little easier with my son, particularly now that he's finished with high school football. His time is less structured than it has been all fall. Through most of the fall, our time was spent on weekends watching Olathe East football on Friday nights, and then he and I and my wife might watch KU football together on Saturday and Chiefs on Sunday. But really, the main thing that we have to do is just make sure that we schedule time together.
2023 goals and aspirations, not just for your business, but your family.
Yeah. I think for our family, as much as I'd like to say that we, schedule time together, this last year's been difficult for us to do that. Sophie came home from KU in February. She decided that she needed to take a gap year. Kind of unexpectedly showed up on a Saturday afternoon, and it was kind of like, "Hey, I'm home," and like, "Okay, what's up with this?" And we've kind of had to work our way through that, and then with my son kind of just deciding to play football, it's kind of thrown our family dynamics into a little bit of a disorganized state. So I would say that one of my big goals for 2023 for our family would be for us to find time to actually travel once or twice together. I was
about to say, man, take a vacation or something.
Yeah, and one of those sort of travel opportunities is going to happen this weekend. I'm going to take my son on a little road trip. He and I we're not going to go far. We're only going to go to Wichita and then Hutchinson. But one of my heroes, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, like a lot of kids. And one of the astronauts from Apollo 13 is actually going to be at the Cosmosphere in Hutchinson this weekend doing a book signing. And so my son and I are going to go and get a book signed and hopefully get a picture with him. It's Fred Hayes, who was the lunar module pilot on the ill-fated Apollo 13 that never got to land on the moon. But getting to meet him is kind of one of those. I wouldn't say that meeting Fred Hayes specifically would be kind of a bucket list sort of thing, but having the opportunity to meet an Apollo program astronaut is always something that I've wanted to do. So the fact that he's going to be there, decided, okay, well, this is an opportunity for my son and I to take just a couple of days, a road trip just for the two of us. We're going to go to Wichita and stay there on Friday night. And then we'll probably go out for pizza and go to a movie and then get up the next morning, do the Cosmosphere thing with Fred Hayes, and then go 650 feet underground at the Hutchinson salt mine. and then we'll head for home later that day. But so that's sort of my first opportunity just to get out of Kansas City with my son. I'd like to do the same sort of road trip, something for my daughter. But then take a vacation with my family, which we tend to do once every 2 or 3 years. We're not an every year vacation kind of family, but this year is definitely a year for a vacation.
And what about business?
So business, one of the things that I have been doing in my business has been expanding my service offering in the last several months. And I'm beginning to get really good at the services that, the additional services that I'm offering that when I got into business for myself, I never really envisioned offering. And we'll get into that in a while. But so my goals have to do with the number of clients that I can serve in the coming year and serve extremely well. I'd like to be in a position before the end of 2023 to have expanded my business to hire an employee or two, or maybe even more than that, to grow enough that I can hire some people to help me. And the goal for that will not only be to grow my business to that point, but also to hire people who can take on some of the things that I'm as a solopreneur doing myself.
Right.
And it's costing me time with my family. So hiring some people will help me regain time with my family.
What are the latest books you've read, business books you would recommend, and why?
Okay. A couple of business books that I've enjoyed lately. One is actually about networking, and it's called The Go-Giver. It's all about leading with value, and it's all about giving to others that you meet not just in your business, but that you meet in business, giving to them without having any expectation of coming back your way in return, and using that approach in a not so much as in a systematic way. That's not the right way or the right word for it. In a very deliberate or intentional way, so that ultimately what you're doing is you're sort of fulfilling the Zig Ziglar approach to growing your business. And that is that the fastest way, I think Zig Ziglar said it this way, the fastest way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want.
Exactly.
And that's what the Go-Giver is about. Another book that I've enjoyed recently, and I promote this book a lot, and it's not so much intended to be a sales book, but ultimately it is. It's called Rejection Proof. And it's about a guy, the writer, he tells a lot of stories about how he made very audacious and in some cases absurd requests of people with the express purpose of having them reject him so that he could sort of bulletproof himself against rejection. And what he found was that in many cases, as he made these really audacious requests, people wouldn't necessarily do exactly what he was asking them to do, but they would sort of say, well, I might not be able to do that, but I can do this. Is that okay? And so what he learned through the whole process was sort of when I was in school at KU, one of my heroes in the advertising business was a guy named Leo Burnett. And Leo Burnett founded an advertising agency, and his big motto was reach for the stars. You might not grab any, but you won't come up with a handful of mud either. and so I think the whole thing about rejection proof is it's about reaching for the stars, knowing that you might not get exactly what you want when you ask for, when you sort of ask for the moon. But that you're going to get something out of it.
You're going to get what you want out of it, not just what you want out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So those are a couple of business books that I've enjoyed lately.
What about the non-business books?
So a non-business book that I've been reading lately is a book about fatherhood, and it's a collection of short stories that a number of Christian men and women tell about their own fathers, about how their father's example helped shape their own faith life. And it's just a great book because it's one of those books that you can read a little bit of, because you can read one short story and put it down and pick it up in 2 or 3 weeks and read another short story. But ultimately the collection of stories about how people's fathers influenced their lives is something that's making a really good impression on me.
Speaking of business, you are the owner, operator, and the sole person at 5-Star Solution Group.
Yeah, so the word group kind of is a misnomer, isn't it? Since I'm a one-man group at 5-Star Solutions Group. So I started my business in October of 2019. At the time, I was working for a small full-service marketing company called Kelly & Kelly Marketing. It was owned by 2 good friends and mentors of mine, Liz and Brian Kelly, who now are living in Florida. We had an experience where over the course of just a few months, we lost enough clients that we were having to sort of rediscover what we wanted to do, and ultimately, I told this story this morning that I went from being a pretty well compensated W-2 employee of the company as the director of client service. It became almost overnight a 1099 contractor, all about new business development. And while new business development had been something that I'd done as a radio salesperson for the previous 20 years, it was something I was a little out of practice of, because I had been in account management and client service with Kelly & Kelly Marketing. And so I was looking for something that I could do to win new clients faster at smaller budgets by offering a service that I felt like they would want and need. And ultimately the marketing company did not survive, and we all sort of went our own ways. But I decided that this was something that I could do on my own. And so 5-Star Solutions Group started as an exclusively online reputation management firm. All I was doing was helping businesses with their online reviews. In other words, helping a small business get more great online reviews from their customers than they could get themselves, and also helping them minimize the number of negative reviews that they might get as well. And I've got a system for that. And what I've found is that that business has been, it's still my core offering, but I've been asked to do other things as well. One of my very first clients that had really nice success with online reviews called me one day and said, "Hey Dave, can you help me with an Instagram advertising campaign now?" And I said, "Well, Sheila, yes, I can." And then I hung up the phone and I thought to myself, I've never done that before. I have no idea what to do. Who do I call to find out how to do that? And so that taught me a valuable lesson, and that was that clients were going to ask me to do things that I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but that I could learn to do very well. And what's happened, interestingly enough, in the last couple of years, even though I sort of fancy myself an expert at all things online reputation, when I get asked to speak to groups, it's generally about Google business profile optimization, how to set up and make your Google business profile as effective as it can be as a lead generating tool. And so I've had to become very much an expert at that over the last couple of years. But I've really enjoyed that too, because the way that I've kind of learned this has been by doing it myself and doing it for others, and have had the opportunity to really understand how Google works, and how to help my clients utilize their own Google business profiles in a way that that their profile would become a lead generating machine, as opposed to simply a directory listing, kind of like, a Yellow Pages ad.
So what problems does 5-Star Solutions Group as a whole, what problems do they solve?
Well, I would say this, that our goal is to help small businesses maximize the online lead, or I should say to maximize the lead generation potential of their online presence. And that all of that really starts with their presence at Google. And so the types of problems that we solve, for example, on the online reputation management side of the equation, it would be when the client says, "You know what, I ask my customers for reviews, and my customers tell me that they will give me reviews, and then they don't." Mm-hmm. So that's a problem that I'm able to solve. Another problem that I'm able to solve with respect to online presence would be to make sure that all parts or all pieces of their online presence are working well together. That would be communicating the same messages in social media that they're communicating at their website, that they're communicating in their Google business profile. in any of their online digital advertising. So making sure that everything that they are doing is speaking with the same voice.
Right. That's a good one.
Because that's a way for, that we say in sales that a confused mind never buys. Well, a confused mind is one that's getting a lot of different messages from the same business, as opposed to the business speaking with one voice. And so I want to make sure that my clients all have the opportunity to speak with one voice about their business.
So I was having a problem with visibility.
Mm-hmm.
People would go to Google and they would go looking for electrical lighting companies that could help fix their parking lot lights.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we weren't getting any calls. So we actually needed help. So we called you. Tell the audience and the listeners what you did to come into Luminous Technologies and add value to our company.
Well, there were a number of things, and of course we're just in the middle of the process now. But really, the whole process started with just looking at your online presence and trying to understand where there might be gaps between what you wanted your customers to know about you and what they actually knew about you. And that wasn't done with any like customer research. It was really done by just looking at your Google business profile, and trying to understand, what were the features in, that were available to you that you either were not using or were not using to your maximum ability. And so, really beginning the process of making sure that we updated your Google business profile to make sure that every feature that was available to you that could help you communicate with your customers would be something that you were using in your profile. We also took a look at your online presence in online business directories across the web to find out, where are you listed, or where are you not listed? And knowing that businesses that rank in Google's local pack, or 3-pack, which is, another way of talking about the local pack. When somebody, for example, if they did a Google search for electrical lighting companies, the first 3 companies that they would see would be those that are in the Google local pack, right? So one of the things that we knew going in was that businesses that show up in Google's local pack average listings, and they have listings in an average of 85 online directories. And, we were able to run a report to find out how many directories you were listed in, that Luminous Technologies was listed in, and it wasn't anywhere near 85. Now, just being listed in those directories isn't like the secret to unlocking Google's algorithm in your favor. But it's one of those things that helps, right. And making sure that the information that you have listed in your listings at all of those other directories is the same as is in your Google business profile, is one of the ways that Google looks at the whole picture and says, oh, well, this is a legitimate business that we should present in search results because the information that they're giving consumers from one directory to the next is consistent. So it's reliable,
right? Meaning
that your company is reliable. So that's another problem that we solve. We've talked also about generating some press for you across news sites on the web, both to give you exposure among people who read the articles that will come from the public relations work that we'll do for you, as well as the generation of backlinks to your website, so that when somebody does a search for you, not only are they seeing your Google business profile, but they might be seeing how you show up at all of these other news sites on the web, and it is simply going to add to what we call your brand authority. Anyway, those are some of the things that we're doing to help you solve that problem of exposure and visibility online.
So you are also, like me, very so into networking. Mm-hmm. What does networking mean to David Wanamaker?
Well, that's an interesting question. So 2 years ago, I joined a networking organization here in Kansas City. And I remember in the early days of being part of that networking organization, I would go to meetings with the idea, I have to meet 3 new people today. I have to get three business cards from people I've never met before. And while that was a good goal to have in the beginning, I over time have kind of shifted my philosophy in so far as what effective networking really means to me now, because I still have the opportunity probably to meet at least 3 new people every week that I go. But I find myself having deeper conversations with people that I've already met and that I am beginning to know pretty well. And at first I was bothered by that. I was like, oh gosh, I didn't meet 3 new people today. I'm going to kind of beat myself up about it. But I began to realize that really what I was doing had a lot of value for my business, because I was spending more time developing relationships with people, trying to get to know them better, to understand what was going on in their life, not just in their business. And not only asking them about, well, tell me who your ideal client is, or, what is it that you're trying to do this week? Who can I introduce to you today? It became more about what was going on in their life and how their business was a part of that. And so today, really good networking for me has more to do with learning what's going on in somebody else's life so that I can help them, as opposed to I have to meet 3 people who might be able to help my business. What I have found is that business associates that I know well through networking are far more committed to helping me grow my business, because I've become more committed to helping them get what they want. It's that Zig Ziglar thing. The fastest way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want. And it wasn't an intentional thing in so far as, well, I want to make sure that I get what I want. It was more, how can I help somebody else, and being focused on that. And it's just very naturally come back my way, without me just, wanting it or expecting it or asking for it as much as trying to reach out to others. And in fact, one gentleman whose name I'll mention is kind of a hero of mine, a networking guy named Isaac Wambua. He's from Kenya.
Yes, the shoe man, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
and I noticed quickly that in the conversations that I'll have with Isaac, he will never neglect to ask me, David, how can I help you today? And that has made an impression upon me, not to the point where I ask everybody that I meet, how can I help you today? But it has influenced me to look for opportunities in conversation to figure out how I might be able to help somebody. And sometimes it's in their business and sometimes it's not. For example, with Isaac, I haven't really been able to help him with his business as much as connecting him with people who can help him with other things that are very important to him, like helping his village in Kenya that he grew up in.
Still help.
Yeah. So it's things like that I look for. I haven't had to ask Isaac, how can I help you today? It's been very obvious. Oh, well, here's a way that I can help Isaac. I can connect him with my friend Scott Wasserman at Unbound, because Unbound is doing the type of work that Isaac wants to do in Kenya. And so creating that opportunity for a relationship between the 2 people was something that I could do for Isaac that, had nothing to do with his business, but was probably more important to him than his business. So I just look for those opportunities in conversation.
I always say, you give effortlessly, you get effortlessly. So
yeah.
So since we're talking about networking, mm-hmm. and networking is a good thing, what would you say is the wrong way to network?
I think it's to go into it just for I won't say just for the purpose of, but with an objective of, collecting business cards in a networking environment. How many business cards can I collect today? How many people can I meet today? I don't think it's necessarily, wrong to have a goal for how many new people you might be able to meet in a networking environment. But I do think, at least for me, it's not the right way to go about it, because if I'm focused on achieving a goal of meeting a set number of people and collecting a set number of business cards, it takes me away from being present to the person or people that I'm talking to at any given time, and allowing a conversation to go where it's supposed to go. And I've had situations where I've had times, during networking meetings, we're all sitting, I'll talk with the same person for 25 minutes. And I have had those, those experiences where I kind of beat myself up about it. I should let this person go meet somebody else. I should go meet somebody else. We can spend time in a one-on-one, doing this. But I think by cutting a conversation short, sort of unnaturally, I'm doing a disservice to that person by not being present to them. And so that it's really important to me to be present to the person that I'm speaking with in a networking situation, because that's how we discover whether or not we can help each other. It's how, I will discover what's important to them, so that I can look for opportunities to be a help to them at some point, even if I can't today. If I know what's important to them, and I meet somebody 6 weeks later who can help them, I might remember, oh, well, this person needed this, and this person can help them with that. I want to make sure to connect them. I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't present to them and didn't listen.
So the ACA
Business Club.
Yes, yeah. ACA. Let's get into that.
Okay.
And before I even go there, I just want to say, when it comes to networking, I go to a lot of networking groups, the KCBOC, the ACA. Yeah. We're scheduled to join the ACA at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So
I think KCBOC was where we met, actually.
Yes. I think
on a rooftop event, or it was either here or the rooftop event earlier this summer.
Here, and then the rooftop event was maybe the rooftop event was first, and then it was here. But
yeah,
I meet a lot of great people at networking events. Mm-hmm. So just like you said, being intentional and deliberate in the moment. So when I go to these meetings, when I go to these gatherings, I really don't like to pitch myself. Yeah. A lot of people say, what do you do? And it freezes me up, because my whole intention is to just meet people. I want to meet as many as people as I can. Why? Because if someone ever comes up to me and said, hey, Chuck, man, I'm having this big problem. I have all this social media stuff that I'm trying to control, and I just got extra responsibilities added to my plate at work. So now I can't do this. I got somebody for you.
Yeah.
And the more people you meet with all of these great positions and jobs and businesses, you always have someone that you can refer.
Yes.
The referral. That's the most important thing in these meetings to me. It's not me. It's not, who are you, Chuck? Oh, man, I'm just Chuck. I own a little lighting company. I do a podcast here. I do social media influencing. But what about you? I want to know what you do. So let's get back to ACA. How long have you been with ACA, and what has ACA done for you since you've been part of it?
Yeah, so I joined ACA in the summer of 2020, when nobody was doing any in-person networking anywhere. I happened to get an invitation to a virtual networking event through, I think it was called Northland Coffee Connect or something like that. And so I met this person named Rebecca Graham, who's an ambassador at the ACA Business Club up north on Vivian Road. And she said, hey, Dave, I'd like to get to know you a little better. Would you do a virtual one-on-one with me? I said, yeah, absolutely. And so when we were talking, she said, she introduced me to just the concept of ACA and said, yeah, we meet on on Thursday mornings, and we meet at such and such a place where their location is on Vivian Road. Would you like to come? And I said, what do you mean come? She said, well, yeah, this is an in-person networking event that we do every week. And I was like, wow, I'm in. I definitely want to be a part of that, because there was nothing like that going on anywhere for months. And so I jumped at the chance, and I was hooked right away, because it was an opportunity to connect with people face to face for the first time in several months. And a group of people who, they were interested in getting to know me, and what my business was about and what my goals were, and just the hospitality of the organization kind of roped me in. And they told me at that point, they said, if you join, we've got locations all over, and including in Overland Park where you live. So if you join, you're not only a member here, but you're a member at any of our locations. And so they encouraged me to visit Overland Park. And I remember my experience. I walked in, I was nobody's guest. I didn't really know anybody there. And, I remember going to get a cup of coffee, at a coffee station in the room. And so I pour my coffee and I turn around. There are three people standing there waiting to shake my hand and introduce themselves and asking me who I am. And so the hospitality was just overwhelming. And I've been invited. I had been invited about a year later, not quite a year later, to join a business development team inside ACA Business Club. At the time, it was maybe 20 people at the most. Now the team, and you visited last week, well, 2 weeks ago, because last week was Thanksgiving. And now we're at about 40 people. So it's a pretty big group. But it's still small compared to the entire ACA Business Club. Yeah. But I've been able to grow my business through ACA Business Club. I've received referrals to other clients through ACA. Some ACA members are clients, and so it's been fantastic for me. I've definitely. The ROI on my membership at ACA has been fantastic.
You knocked that out in January.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I get one new client and through an ACA referral, and it pays for my membership for the entire year for no sweat.
Networking isn't always formal. So, what is your go-to place when you want to speak and talk? Because you can't always get everything out that you want to say at these places. You're in there, you meet 4 or 5 people, and you take a couple of cards. Let's sit down for coffee. Let's go out for a drink, talk. What is that? Yeah. What would that ideal place be?
It probably would be, if I'm meeting somebody and we decide to have a one-on-one meeting, it's going to be, over coffee most often. Sometimes it's right back at ACA. Sometimes it's at a coffee house. I enjoy also networking through. I'm a member of the Northeast Johnson County Chamber of Commerce, and I really like that chamber because it's a little bit smaller. There are 2 other major chambers in Johnson County. Well, there's really more than 2, but Overland Park and Olathe are both pretty big. They're both large chambers, and there are a few other chambers in Johnson County as well. But I really like Northeast because it's a group of people that really seems to, know each other and like each other. They enjoy each other's company, and there are opportunities for networking at the chamber. I love the Kansas City, the KC Business Owners Connections group as well. It's obviously a little bit of a different setup in the sense that it's mostly online with a single monthly event, but that's a great place to meet people as well. And one of the things I like about the KCBOC online kind of experience is it lends itself well to offering people the benefit of your expertise without trying to sell them anything.
Yes.
By offering, hey, here's a tip for you. Something that, like, if I might have just read something about something that Google is doing that I wouldn't necessarily expect other people who are business owners to know. It's easy to just do a quick Facebook post and talk about, hey, here's something new that Google is doing, or here's how Google is updating their algorithm, or something along those lines that offers some value to members without asking for anything in return. And so it's an opportunity to teach a little bit. Today earlier today I had an opportunity to give a presentation to a group called the Home Resource Network. They meet at the ACA Business Club, but you don't have to be a member of ACA in order to attend this meeting. And they asked me to come speak, and I said, well, what do you want me to speak about? And they said, you decide what you want to talk about. And I thought, okay, well, I've spoken to this group twice already in the last year and a half. The first time I talked with them about online reviews. The second time I talked with them about how to set up and optimize your Google business profile. And I thought, well, today I'm going to do a little bit of both and talk more about why each business should have a fully optimized Google business profile and what that really means. And so I did a presentation for about an hour on that today, and met probably 25 people in that setting. So I would say I don't really have a go-to so much as my go-to would be to try to be discerning about what networking opportunities I say yes to, but to try to say yes to as many as I possibly can.
Right. Well, see, it's always good to have a plan to follow through. So you can be selective with your time, because, everyone is under the same influence as you. I know I can't meet everyone, but I can definitely make the introduction, and we can move this to a different date and time where we can actually fill in a lot of stuff, because I want to get to know you, but at the same time, I know you want to get to know other people. So It's always good to have that second place to go to follow up on a call. I just, Security Bank guy, one of the guys that was in the group, I reached out to him today, and we got a coffee meeting set up.
Fantastic.
So, very good guy. And he definitely answered he definitely followed up on a call. A lot of people get these business cards from you, and they just never follow up. So it's like, man, you just wasted my business card over here, buddy. But
yeah, what is it that John Olson at KCBOC says? He says, your network is your net worth.
Yes.
And I heard something else today that I thought was really important about networking, and that is that in any networking environment, there is likely to be somebody within 20 feet of you who can change your life. And so, who needs what you have. And so you certainly have to be open to, meeting people and being present to them, understanding what it is that they need so that you can help them.
Right. So now we're going to get a little bit off task, because this is weird. Just take about 3 to 5 minutes, create your ideal perfect world.
Wow. So unsurprisingly, my perfect world would start with, with families that love each other. I know that not every person grows up in a family where, they've had excellent relationships with their parents and siblings. I've been really blessed in my life to, not only have grown up in that kind of a family, but I didn't realize this until later in life, how lucky I was to have not only been in that kind of a family, but also to have known very personally all 4 of my grandparents into my adulthood. I'm now aware of how different that is, because many people today don't know all of their grandparents. My wife did not know her grandparents on her her father's side. Her only close relationship was with a grandparent on her mom's side. Her maternal grandmother is very close to. So I would say that a perfect world is going to start with, with really well-grounded family units that care for and support one another, and understand that we may have differences of opinion about this or that, but ultimately, we're still family, and there's a lot to be said for that. So, yeah, my perfect world would really begin with that. I don't know exactly where that would end, but I know that if we, I think, did a better job of really, supporting family life, that we would certainly get closer to whatever a perfect world is supposed to be.
Definitely agree. Positive message.
Okay.
What can you leave the audience with?
Well, I would say that just as I mentioned Mother Teresa earlier in this interview, one of my own personal heroes in my life was Pope John Paul II, and his motto was "Be not afraid." And so if I were to leave those watching this with any one particular message, it would be that: be not afraid. Live that motto of Pope John Paul II, and live your life in a way that you live fearlessly.
David Wanamaker, man, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I also want to say thank you for all that you're doing for our company. Ladies and gentlemen, man, if you guys have any issues with getting your business out there on Google, getting those reviews, getting some sort of presence, being seen more, a larger audience, reach out to this man. This man is a professional at what he does. And not just that, like we've been talking about networking, he also has a slew of other small businesses that he works alongside with that can definitely help you grow your business. So, man, I appreciate the extra efforts that you've taken into helping us get to where we need to be, because you walked right into our business and you sat down and you definitely went right to the meat. This is the issue. This is the problem. We sat down and we talked about those issues, and then afterwards we chatted and did our little talk. So I appreciate all of what you do. Before we leave, you got to let them people know how to reach you, though.
Oh, okay.
I'll let them know.
So 2 ways to find me would be just to Google 5-Star Solutions Group in Kansas City, or you can find it's really a placeholder. It's not my website just yet. I'm still working on my website, but you can find me at 5starskc.com. And that's 5, F-I-V-E, not the number 5, 5starskc.com. And again, my name is Dave Wanamaker with 5-Star Solutions Group. Chuck, it has been a privilege to be here, and it's an honor to have the opportunity to work with your company.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. This has been a No Solutions podcast production. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, stay positive, people.